Right on, writers, and welcome first-time viewers to the Books by Adrian author platform. This is Typewriters Podcast. Today we'll be chatting with T.E. Butcher. At the time of recording, we've just wrapped up live stream Sunday for the week. If you missed it, you can watch it on the replay linked here for the YouTube audience and in the show notes for the audio-only audience. For those of you listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, thank you so very much for supporting the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast there and leave us a 5-star review. I'm only accepting 5-star reviews. I'm sorry, it's just company policy. It's the only thing you can do is 5-star review. But in that 5-star review, you can say anything you want. Just, tell me I'm ugly. I don't care. Just whatever. 5-star reviews. Any and all help in that arena is greatly appreciated. YouTube folks, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you are getting late notifications lately, folks, everybody is getting late notifications in their emails and all that kind of stuff. Check your settings in YouTube. Double check your settings on your phone. And always set reminders anyway, because the reminders are more reliable than the notifications. Okay, leave us a comment downstairs regarding your favorite sci-fi war or fantasy war story. Okay, so wow us with your comment, and your comment can be chosen for the comment of the week on the next episode of Livestream Sunday. Now, let's welcome our guest back into the room. Welcome back, Mr. Butcher.
Hey, how's it going?
Howdy. Hello. We're gonna also show names here because that way it's easier for everybody at home. Hi. Okay, dude. We just wrapped up live stream Sunday. I had a good old time. How about yourself?
I had a great time. That was the first thing I've really done on YouTube ever. Yeah, that was much smoother than I expected.
It was fun, right? Yeah. Like I try to make it so that you don't have to do anything. Just sit there and answer questions. And you're fine.
Say no more.
You didn't
I love the sound of that.
Yeah, I love it, right? Right? There you go. That's what you got to do. You just got to make it easy for people and they'll be fine. Make it easy for people. That's what I always tell them. Is like, I had one guest, and I will never name names, but I did have one guest who just wouldn't read the emails that I was sending them because they would show up and be confused about what we were doing. And I'm like, dude, it's impossible for you to be confused. I'm so detailed. I tell you everything you need to know. You just have to actually read it. Anyway, he knows who he is.
This is the lowest common denominator. Someone proves that they are somehow lower.
Exactly, man. Exactly. That's how it is. All right. So, we are going to very quickly pull up questions that we didn't get to during live stream Sunday and use those to kind of kick us off into our talk for today. What am I looking? Oh, here we go. Boom. There it is. All right. So we left off right around here. So, what genre are you looking forward to playing in most in the future? I know you said that you like to step away, do other things, refresh, come back. What's the genre that like is titillating to you that like maybe you haven't dabbled in yet but you want to?
I think, and it's always because I have like so many like concepts, and I'm like, oh, I should try this, oh, I should try that. I think, I don't know how to articulate this, like a Western, like, I'm just like, picture this, like Clint Eastwood style. You got like some dude like running around with like a revolver full of silver bullets, and he's hunting like vampires, werewolves. He's taking care of business out in some rough and tumble outpost.
Yeah.
With like his sidekick or whatever, and I don't know. I have to workshop it a little bit more, but
I love it. I had something similar that wasn't exactly that, but I had something similar where I wanted to use, and I still might, I don't know, in the future, but I wanted to create a like time travel monster hunter. So like kind of like Doctor Who meets Van Helsing. You know what I mean? And so like he's kind of got to be like a detective about it because he's got to pick up clues in old Victorian England. They're going to send him back further in time to like the origins of the vampire, right? Or like the first werewolf and how was he you know what I mean? Like trying to find like the sources of these things throughout history and going throughout history looking for the clues and finding them and hunting them and killing them. That was always like, but I don't have anything for that to exist in yet. I don't know. I might, like, we'll see. That's my idea anyway.
I do very much like the angle of like having to like investigate like some kind of fantastic monster and figure out like, all right, what does it do? What is it capable of? What are its capabilities? What are its weaknesses? How do I exploit those weaknesses? How do I put the monster in a position where I can maximize its vulnerabilities and minimize its strength?
Or picture a scenario, right, where you're like a time traveler and you travel into some point in the future and the world is overrun by vampires or zombies or whatever the monster is. It's just overrun and you're like, oh shit. Or maybe they have like even like societies and stuff and like hierarchies and you're just like, how did it get like this? And then you gotta have to like backtrack their story to find like the origin point of their entire like species. You know what I mean? Like it can go all those ways. It's so not. And if you really do like a Doctor Who kind of thing where he can go anywhere and be anywhere in time, possibilities are endless. Should be a TV show.
yeah. I think you kind of like touch on something very interesting, like an interesting concept where it's like information across like a temporal, like kind of like warfare scenario where
how it kind of trying to changes over time and
like you would like try to actively conceal like how they could like suss out like any relevant information to where you came from or what your origins are or how something was developed, because you don't want them to go back there and find out something else about you. So you kind of you could in that like scenario create this very interesting like cross-time intrigue of where just people are perpetually trying to conceal like information about themselves. Because I mean, I don't know if there would be like a capability for, in your hypothetical like vampires overrun the world story and the hero is trying to backtrack their origins. With their long lifespans, would vampires be able to like, oh, I remember this dude was a time traveler. He came back and he found out this. So in the future, we need to try and conceal this.
Yeah, like the trail could look something like this. Like he could see like a world run by vampires, and he could trace that back to when vampires first like made themselves public to the world, right? But then he's like, wait, but they've been here all along. This is just them revealing themselves to us. They've been hidden before this point. So then the mystery becomes even more difficult because he is searching for a secret society of vampires before that point. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that's where my head was at with that whole like it's bananas. It would be cool, and I've tried to like shoehorn this character into like other stories, and it's just he or she has not fit yet. Like I don't quite see them in their entirety just yet. Like they're still just swiveling around in my brain. What genre scares you from ever trying it?
I'm never gonna write romance. Ever.
So many of my male writer guests say that. It's like the go-to answer is like, I ain't write no romance. Fuck it.
No, I mean like, I'm not, because I'm like, oh, I could write like a surface level like romantic subplot.
Yeah, like my stories have romantic subplots as well. Yeah.
Like I could do that reasonably well without being like too cliche or like over the top or cheesy. But like I can't revolve a whole narrative around that.
Yeah.
Like that just seems so sappy and like convoluted to me. And I always make fun of these, mainly because they all use the same set. But every Christmas, it's almost a Christmas tradition in our house that my mom and my wife will enjoy like their Hallmark Christmas movies, and I will sit there and make fun of them for like the entire like marathon. I'll be like, this is the same set they used in that other movie. That's the same house that other fool lived in. This is just from a different angle.
It's so me. I would do the same thing to my sister. Like my wife occasionally enjoys a nice little rom-com like that, but for the most part my wife just watches whatever I say we're watching that night, and not because I'm like a movie tyrant or anything. It's just that she just isn't interested. She's like, I will enjoy it while we're watching it, and then I immediately forget I've ever seen it. It just doesn't matter. It's just gone. So if I don't retain it, I don't care about choosing it. Just choose something and I'm along for the ride. And I'm like, cool, bet. Like I'm always going to be picking stuff that I love, and it's going to be great.
My wife's a bit of a remote dictator in the fact that if I have like something on in the background or if I'm like watching something, she's like, do you mind if I watch TV? I'm like, oh no, go ahead. And she'll turn on like whatever Lifetime show or like whatever, like, I mean, like white women TV, like 90 Day
Women TV.
Fiance or like
See,
Joe
we don't
Millionaire or
even-
whatever.
We don't even watch TV in our house anymore. Like, not in the traditional sense. We don't have channels. So, like, we don't have cable. We don't have any, like, we don't switch on the television and browse. Like, we just have our streaming services. And we're sharing all of them with different people. I don't think there's a single one that we even pay for, if I'm being honest. Because I think the only one I was paying for was Hulu, and I cut it because my sister started paying for it. So I just jumped on hers. So, like, you know, I'm on my dad's Netflix. I'm on my coworker's HBO. You know, like we're all just sharing different. So I don't need TV. I can just switch on whatever I want to watch. My list to be watched is endless, like my to be read pile. So, like, you know, what do I need TV for?
We're mostly the same way, that most of the stuff we watch is on streaming services at this point. The only reason we really still have
Background
cable
noise.
is because background. My parents are still old school, so they still watch the news on like regular TV. And football season. That's literally it. Sunday ticket is the only thing keeping us. If DirecTV loses that, well, all right, bye-bye DirecTV subscription. We're gonna go.
See, for me, it's the UFC fights. I miss every UFC fight, and I hate that I miss every UFC fight. But I'm not gonna buy cable and pay monthly for cable just so I can see UFC fights. Like, that's, I'm not big onto any other sports, but I want to see these dudes like beat the shit out of each other. It makes me happy.
I got into UFC a little bit. I got really into hockey when I was overseas because that was what was
I
on
was
the
really
TV.
into hockey as a kid. Yeah.
That was what was on the TV. It's like overseas in the gym. I'd be like, all right, here's like the hockey lineup.
I'm from Buffalo, so I was into hockey just by proxy, and I was a Sabres fan because I'm from Buffalo. And then I just kind of stopped watching after they got cheated out of the championship. Like, I just, like, I mean, they should have won and they didn't. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why am I watching this? If the legit winner doesn't win, fuck this. I haven't watched it since.
It's like we're all over here, so Lake Erie bros for life.
Lake Erie, man. Oh, that cold ass Lake Erie. Oh, so appropriately named. Okay, on your blog, you list your top 10 favorite sci-fi universes. That was really fun for me to read, by the way. I fully expect your books to hold influences from some or all of them, maybe. What sets yours apart from all of the ones on your list, though? What makes your sci-fi series your sci-fi series?
So it's a combination of like several different things. Like, I think that people can clearly tell the main influence of the Panzer series is Gundam. But whereas like, the perpetual message of Gundam is it's very anti-war. War is bad, period. End of story. It's a very pacifist message, which makes sense if you were like a formerly like, war is like our first means of, because when your country used to be Imperial Japan and you had a couple atomic bombs thrown your way, like, you would understand why you'd suddenly be very dramatically opposed to war. Whereas like the Panzer kind of recognizes that war is kind of a necessary evil, to where like you need to have. So it's part of like my own philosophy, where I think if you are incapable of being violent, you're not peaceful, you're harmless. So you have to have that basic capability to defend yourself, defend others, and defend what is right. Otherwise, you're going to let evil people walk all over you.
Damn.
Because they exist like hurricanes and floods and anything else. Evil people are out there.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, it's you gotta be a realist in the world that you live in. You know, I saw a headline the other day. What if Russia invades, what is it, Ukraine?
Ukraine.
And I was just like, Jesus, man, like, this shit still happens? Where like some big bully country looks at another country and goes, I'm gonna take all your shit, and just invades. Like, how does that still happen? Like, it was just really frustrating to read that.
Like, for Russia, for that example specifically, it's because like the Russian people, they view like the Baltic states, Belarus, and Ukraine as literal buffers. against like the West.
Yeah.
And historically, bad things have always happened to the people of those states every time the Russians end up dominating it. Because you got the pogroms when the Tsars ran things. You had the Holodomor when the Soviets ran things. They starved and killed a ton of Ukrainians. And then in World War II, most of their country was destroyed in World War II.
Jeez, man. When you line up the sequence of events, the big picture kind of comes clear. This is a question that I have to ask because I have to. Like it's a need inside of me. Have you seen any UFOs in your time in the military, and if so, were they friendly? What do aliens look like? Tell me everything you know immediately.
Well, there was this one time where this weird. No, I'm kidding. I saw something weird in the sky once. It was actually before I was even in the military. It was I was riding with my dad up to North Carolina, and we were just talking, like keeping each other awake because it was like 2 a.m. And ironically enough, Rocket Man was the song playing on the radio.
Of course it was.
And we saw like a light in the sky get like, it looked like a star, but then it got really bright and it zoomed off. And we just kind of glanced at each other and went, huh, and never acknowledged it. We just kind of went about our lives like that didn't happen.
Let's not even try to touch that. Okay.
Yeah,
I hear that.
Was,
I saw I saw once what I thought was like a meteor shower because I saw like several lights streaming across the sky downward, and I was like, oh, check it out, a meteor shower. And then like it was like 4 or 5 of them, and the lights like then just like stopped at like different points in the sky. They just like stopped. And I was like, what the? And then they just disappeared. And I was like, anybody else? Nobody? Okay. Nope, nobody else saw that. All right. Fine. I'll just wonder if I'm insane for the rest of my life. That's fine.
I think if they're like hiding UFOs, maybe like the military itself did that at one point. But if they are now, it's 100% contractors.
Huh.
You can never
like
keep a
government. It would be like private entities. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. I mean, a lot of these defense contractors are essentially extensions of the government, in my opinion. But like, it would be like the people they pay like 6 figures to guard a gate or whatever, because you would never be able to keep a private's mouth shut. But if you pay a guy like 6 figures, they're gonna be like, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
Mine's good enough.
That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, man. The CIA has been like declassifying documents slowly over the last few years, and everybody's starting to talk about UFOs, and now there's a new acronym for it and everything. And I'm just like, okay, what's coming, guys? What's coming? Why
I'm not using that UAP stuff. That sounds like garbage.
It's weird. UAP. Like, what does that even? Oh, it's a UFO. Like, it was fine. There's no need to change that. And it's like, why all of a sudden are you being so incredibly open? This is so unlike you, CIA. Like, what exactly is about to happen that we need to know about here? Well, all right. My last couple questions for you are what I call like the classics, right? The ones that everybody asks. So since this is your first time doing anything promotional like this on YouTube, I figured it would be good enough to ask you a couple of these. Number 1, do you struggle with writer's block? Do you believe it exists? And if you do, how do you fight it?
So I don't like struggle per se with writer's block. I do have moments where I'm tired and I struggle to write more so than others. I wouldn't say, I think writer's block exists for some people, but like I said on the live stream, I'm very stubborn. So
just beat yourself over the head until it's done.
I will sit there and I will hammer out words. I'm like, they don't have to be perfect. I just need to get words on paper because I can always edit them or get something out of them later.
Yeah, for sure.
I might be going at a steamroller pace, but I'm going.
Now, whenever I ask this of people, I always like to throw in my 2 cents that I don't believe in writer's block, really. Like, I don't think it's a thing. I think it's a misunderstood part of, like, the writing process, something that's designed to let you know that there's something missing, something you haven't worked on, something you need to complete before you can move further. Like, you're stopped here because even though you want to write the next sentence, you can't. You have not done some legwork somewhere. Find it, do it, and then you'll find that you're flowing again. And so that's how I look at writer's block. With that in mind, what about imposter syndrome? Do you ever struggle with imposter syndrome where you feel like, oh, why am I even doing this? I'm no writer. Look at these other writers, and I'm, because I struggle with.
I struggle with that all the time. I'm like, because like I'll see like some of these numbers, I'm like, damn, I'm a chump. Like, what am I doing?
Bro, tell me.
Or I'm like, the dude complimenting like my covers the other day. Like, I was just talking about my covers, like, oh, it's not like exactly how I would want it. I was just talking to my wife like last night, in fact, like, oh, they're not exactly how I want them to look, and if I could redo it, like maybe book one's like a little bit different to signal the genre a little bit more clearly. But
my guy, I am nowhere near the point where I need to think about my cover, and I am stressed out about my cover. Like, I need to find the perfect artist that's gonna, like, manifest this vision into an actual book cover that's gonna make people want to buy my book. Because, like, there's also like psychology behind book covers, right? And like how they make you want to pick it up or not, right? So like number one, I'm not an artist. I can't trust myself to it. But I also know that I appreciate my eye, at least. So like I can look at a piece of art and be like, this looks good, this is what I'd like, add more of this, take away that, but whatever. But man, like, I'm stressed out about my cover. I really want something that, like I said, that jumps off of the shelf and makes you go like, what is that? And pick it up and you read the back and you're like, oh shit, this sounds cool. And before you know it, you bought a big ass epic sci-fi murder mystery. Which is what
I don't know. I have some opinions about covers. Like, I personally like stay away from pre-mades because they don't really help my genre much.
No.
And probably, and I'm like, is this a reader or like an author opinion? Because I'm also an avid reader. I'm like, probably just thinks they look cheap looking. I'm not. Yeah, for some genres they probably work a lot better. For mine,
sure.
I don't think pre-mades are great.
Look, man, like everything, it has its place, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to pick what's right for your product. And your book is a product that you're trying to sell. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I know that if I'm writing a sci-fi book, a sci-fi genre book, my cover should look and feel sci-fi so that it attracts a sci-fi reader. I get that. But I also am adamant that my book is a multi-genre, like, melting pot of all kinds of stuff. And as such, I want to reach as many readers as possible. And so there's always that to think about too. And you want to find your niche, but you don't want to go too niche because you want to make some sales. And it's this whole thing. And like, again, the science behind the cover. And it's just like, I want the cover to look like it's my book, my brand, my product, and I want them all to look like they belong together and everything. And it's going to be a whole thing. Like, I'm trying to finish my edit of my first draft, turn it into my second draft, send it off to an editor, and start freaking out about the cover. Because it's just like, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to decide on something?
When I first started even thinking about my cover, it just kind of like rolled up on me, which is very unlike me at this point. Like,
where you're like, oh yeah, I have to do a cover. Like, you hadn't even like paid attention to it until then.
I was like, cover.
It's just a book with no cover. It just starts at page 1. It's just like you didn't put a cover on your book.
Thumbnails, like a screenshot of like page 1.
Chapter 1. Where's the cover? That is the cover. It's chapter 1.
I will say it's gotten easier now that I've gotten my wife a lot more on board with the whole business side of things.
Yeah, that's cool to have like a partner in crime.
So you can see the impact of having like a good cover or like good editing, and like I don't have to turn around and explain why I need to pay for these things.
Yeah. See, I have gotten to the point where I've partnered up with like my with my lifelong best friend. I can't talk today. This dude is my brother basically. Like I don't have real brothers. This guy's the closest thing on the planet to a brother that I have. And he and his brother started a company where they're helping creative people to finish their projects, whatever their project is, to find the funding to make it something that looks professional and is worth people's money, so that it sells and put money into the marketing, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm lucky enough to be partnered up with these dudes who are creative people in of themselves, and they're trying to do this thing, and it's crazy because like I know that I'm gonna be stressing out about the cover among other things, the formatting of the book. Like it's all gonna be a nightmare for me. But I'll have people who know what they're doing, who are looking for it to be successful because they're invested in this too. Like if I don't make money, they don't make money. We're all trying to make money here. So it's nice to have like backup. You know what I mean, like that, and being authors. I say this all the time. People think that being an author is one job. It's like 19 jobs. Like you're doing so many different things.
There's a lot going on that people don't appreciate.
Dude, there's a lot going on, man. Like even before you send your book off to an editor, hopefully you've done an edit of your own through it. You are a writer, you are an editor, you are a proofreader, you're a beta reader for yourself. All these other things that you're using other people for, you have to do all those things too. You have to market your own book, you have to fund the printing of your book. All of these things, it's bananas, man. It's bananas. So much to do. Do you have plans to adapt your books into other mediums? Movies.
So, the thing, funny enough, I was actually listening to the episode before last Sunday's live stream with the comic guy, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Robert Jones, the story detective. Robert Jones.
Yeah, Robert Jones from Story Detective. Yeah, I have thought about comics a lot. I think if Pantera is going to jump into another medium, it's either going to be like comics, or my brother is more into like the computers, like programming side, and he wants to do like some kind of video game thing. So depending on the complexity of that, it might be that. I have some other concepts for like comic books or something that I might do. It's either a comic book or a novel, or graphic novel. I'd have to figure out which. It's a giant monster story, or a long set of giant monster stories, because I'm some level of autistic, and I have to have these grand, sweeping, decades-long narratives.
That sounds awesome, dude. That's dope, man. I love reading that stuff. I would love to read that from you. I always tell people like I love reading big genre benders and big epics with lots of different characters. So that's, even though they tell you never to write that as your first book, that's my first book. It's a big epic with lots of different characters and storylines, and it's the first of a trilogy. And like every rule they said not to do, I broke every single one of them, because I just that's what I like to read. That's what I like to write. I'm not going to write something I don't like. It's just, write what you like.
I mean, that's the good thing about like being an indie, is that the only rules you really have to follow are like whatever the market says, and sometimes you can get away with
ultimately really story structure are the rules that you really have to just follow. The rules of story structure, otherwise do whatever you want. Like, it's for you, right? Like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, like whatever the market will bear. And even then, like, you can get away with messing with that sometimes. I recently, and a lot of people are noticing it, in the 5th Panzerta book, I switched from doing a variation of the 3-act structure that I was using in the previous 4 to Dan Harmon's story cycle.
Okay.
Which is
self-identification
of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And my editor was like, this is working really well for you. You're clearly a lot more comfortable writing this. It flows really well. I was like, all right, I think I found my structure for pretty much every book in this universe going forward.
Nice. When I was plotting my my book, and I originally had like way too many characters, and I did actually have to cut like a bunch of them down and find my core story and everything. But when I found my core story, it revolved around 3 characters, and I wanted their 3 storylines to feel distinct. to the reader. Not just because it's a different character, but I almost wanted each to be a different genre almost. You know what I mean? So like you're following one who is the detective who is trying to solve the mystery of this murder, and it's leading her down this crazy rabbit hole of like further revelations, and it gets twistier, you know. Then you're also following this like bounty hunter who's like on a redemption arc of sorts, right? And then you've got this like hippie witch chick who's going through like an awakening of her magic powers, okay? And so like I decided like I needed to give them each different story structure. And Kent Sean will be the first one to tell us that it's all the same thing. It's all the hero's journey. Ultimately, every single story structure that is being fed to you, it's all just a different interpretation of the hero's journey or a different way to think about it or to look about it. But with that in mind, I chose 3 different, what I would call story structures, so that I could at least, for me, feel like they were different flavors. So like, the detective has your basic 3-act structure that most things have, movies, novels, etc. The bounty hunter character who's on a redemption arc is Freytag's pyramid, which is ultimately a tragedy. The climax is in the middle, and then it's like a straight decline. So
I've seen that before.
So instead of the climax being near the end, right by the final confrontation, you know, like all of that is kind of usually all tied together in the end there. The big climax is kind of in the middle of his story, and then it's all just like downhill from there. And then Faye, the witch character, has like your classic
Nice name there,
journey.
Faye the witch.
Yeah, Faye the witch. She has like your classic hero's journey with like 12 points or whatever it is, and like you go through the whole thing as she's. So like hopefully there's a nice change of flavor as you read, but ultimately it's all the hero's journey. It's all the same shit. We're all just trying to tell each other the same story over and over again.
I saw an interesting quote in, I think it's Sci-Fi Novelist on Facebook, where he said, there's nothing new under the sun, but there are many suns.
That's actually a pretty good quote. That makes sense. I like that. That's cool. There are many suns. That always trips me up too, the way that we talk about Earth as if it's dirt, but it's also the name of our planet, but then you have other planets with other names. So like if you were standing on, I don't know, Saturn, would you say the Saturn was moist today when you're talking about moist dirt? Are you talking
I have run into that so many times with a story that takes place on a terraformed Mars, where they said like, oh, they'll move heaven and Mars, but they'll never be like, they never refer to like the ground as Earth.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about putting like some like throwaway line in like the spin up the Blackwater series, the Stuff Following Space, about, oh yeah, it's like people that like live their whole lives on Mars, they like no matter what nation they're from, like a lot of them, like the stereotype like people from Earth is like, oh, they're lazy or they're entitled or oh, they're spoiled kids, they're spoiled children or whatever.
Yeah, the way the rest of the world looks at America is how Mars looks at Earth. That makes sense. Dude, this was an absolute pleasure. It was very, very fun to talk to you. You're a natural at this. You should do more of it. Go on other people's shows because, yeah, man, you got it. You got this. I'm going to give you the floor one final time. So for the people at home watching on YouTube or listening at Apple Podcasts or Spotify, let them know where they can buy your books. Let them know when your next book is coming out. Any information like that they might need. I'm gonna give you the floor. Go for it.
All right, sweet. So, my latest book, Armored Warrior Panzer Grim Harvest, is available at Amazon.com. You can avoid missing any release by just following me on my author page on Amazon or following me on BookBub. My next book to release is going to be Homeworld United, the third book in the Homeworld War series, and that will release in late March. Exact date is to be determined, but I got a cover reveal for people that are subscribed to my newsletter.
Like a pro, bro. Like a pro. All right, brother. For everybody at home, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your favorite sci-fi or fantasy war series. T.E. Butcher, my friend Tyler here. Thank you very, very much for being with us, and you're welcome back anytime. Just let me know.
I'd love it.
Again. All right, it would be awesome. And now that I've opened the world's eyes to you, hopefully other people are going to reach out to you and get you on their show. Barrett Laurie conducts a great interview, so check him out for sure. For everyone else at home, come back on Sunday for live stream Sunday. We're going to be talking to Sarah Stewart about BDSM erotic fiction. It's going to get steamy and sexy and awesome, and tune in for that. Good stuff. All right, y'all. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Ride on, riders, and we.